All right, guys, I've got 10:05, so let's get started. I don't think I have a whole lot today, but there might be a lot of questions. So everyone joining, I hope I'm not echoing.
They're talking. I'm muted, I believe, so.
Hopefully I'm not echoing, and just to reiterate the lead applicants in our region, because there's been a slight change on one of them, I guess. The Ironton Lawrence CAO is a lead applicant, Pike County CAC, Community Action Committee, Ross County City of Chillicothe, the Outdoor Recreation Council of Appalachia, or ORCA, and the one that's kind of changed was, I guess, I talked to Great Lakes RCAP yesterday. I've been calling them Ohio RCAP, but it's really Great Lakes RCAP. They're going to take the lead, I gather, instead of Vinton County on that application. They'll still be partnering, but Great Lakes RCAP is going. I think last time we weren't certain, but I talked to them yesterday, and that's my understanding. They will be the lead applicant for that application.
That is our understanding too, John.
Okay, thank you, Terry. Glad that you agree with that, because I thought, what if I say this and you disagree? So thank you.
Hey, never.
All right. The additional planning request by those 5 lead applicants that I just named, those were submitted October 13th to a request of the state, additional planning resources to continue their work, so that some of these projects that they were worried about getting done by or under contract by September 30th of next year could be done. Now, the agenda for that controlling board meeting that will all be taken up at is on November 13th. The agenda for that meeting will not be out until November the 6th. So we will not see what is actually being requested of the controlling board, but we have heard that the state has cut those requests that the planners put in. I've heard anything, Ken and Jessica, I know you guys have been part of the conversations on some of this as well. I've heard anywhere that some of them got 30% of what they asked, maybe some got up to 50% of what they asked. They've been outreached to, or they know, but it's not official where I can see the exact amounts. Ken or Jessica, anything to add to that?
We talked to Arcadis, and they actually got 24% of what they asked. Not a 24% cut. They got 24% of what they asked. So I think that and when I said 50 before, they were including, that particular planner was including the TA that we returned to them. So it's pretty much a 65 to 75% cut across the board for our planners anyway.
Okay. So
and that was on top of the 20% that we cut them in-house.
Right.
Hey, John, OHM let us know that they got roughly 66% of the ask on our project for Waverly.
Okay. Well, like I said, we will see what the actual numbers work out to be. And then I think each not lead applicant only, but each project's going to have to talk to their lead applicant and see if they're going to be able to carry that torch far enough along to get this project under contract for next September. I think we're just going to have some serious discussions. I cannot explain. I could try to explain, but I don't want to speak for the state of Ohio. I do not represent them. So I'm not going to try to explain why that was cut. I was told they used all the money they had. That was the response I got. So I'll leave it at that.
Hey, John.
Yeah, Ralph.
How much flexibility do we have the TA monies that we turned back in of trying to plug critical gaps or whatever. I mean, I know we submitted it for one entity or whatever, or professional, but you know, when it comes down to the absolute critical plugging gaps and that kind of thing, do we have any flexibility with reallocating those or whatever?
You mean reallocating more of that back to the state?
Well, no, what we had allocated, you know, we were asked, I think, to designate one of our professionals or whatever to go to. That
Mhm.
was before the allocations, but we're trying to figure out what has to be done in order to meet the application deadlines, permit deadlines, and if there's greater needs to plug a hole in the dam, leaking dam, someplace else, is there some flexibility in our part of manipulating the monies we turn back in?
You're talking about the money you turn back in, or yeah, for like,
Correct.
you
We
turn
turned
back.
175,000, I think.
Yeah. I think the thing that we're having a hard time with is you guys, well, even what's being approved, the 24% for IBI, the 66% that Keith just brought up. For some of the stuff, we don't know. The state hasn't told them and given them directive like, okay, we've cut you. So since we've cut you, use that. I'm going to use the IBI example. What I think, I haven't heard that the state's told them this. So for IBI, they got 24% of what they requested. Are they supposed to stay the course with all the projects they're working on and only do 25% of the work they plan to do? Or are they supposed to prioritize a few of those projects and only work on them? I've
And that's
not
been a
heard.
question. That's been a question the planners have been asking us, because we're hearing that they don't have a breakdown between you know, the different project components, even because our project is so large. You know, we have planners who are working across multiple communities and they have received no guidance.
Same thing, Jessica. That's what I'm hearing. So I don't know that the planners know whether to drop, you know, okay, project A, we're not going to continue planning that one. We're going to use what we got to continue planning on project B only. Or as a planner, I work on A and B with what I got, even though it doesn't get me to where I plan to try to be. That guidance has not come out that I know of. If it has, somebody hasn't told me about it.
Well, not only that, but there's nothing as to between lead applicants. I mean, there's planners that are going between multiple applicants too. So, I mean, there's just nothing out there.
I think Danielle is a procured planner. I think she wants to chime in.
Yeah, I can tell you that we do not have any of those details. We were given a number and told to sign the contract and send it back. There was no red line. There was no differentiation between lead applicants, between projects, even between TA and the additional request. We don't know how much of what we got is allocated where, to whom, none of that. We were just given the contract and told, sign it and send it back so we can get it on the controlling board.
And Ralph, I think what she just said is why I don't, that was a long answer. I had to have someone else help me answer it. I don't know how to answer your question because of that unknown right there. I don't know where your 175 is supposed to go unless you tell the state, since it literally is yours, that, you know, what do they want you to do with it? Do they want you to, again, divide it among all the projects, or pick out a few and focus on those? And but I guess to some degree, I feel like you ought to have a say in that as Lawrence County, because it was granted to you and you're only giving it up so that it benefits you the most. That's not a good answer. I'm sorry, Ralph, but that's best I could give you at this point.
Well, I guess my question is that are 175 included in the amount that these professionals have signed contracts with, or is that out there in limbo yet to be assigned?
We don't know yet, Ralph.
Okay. I was assuming it's part of, but I don't know. I can't swear to that. The details are slim to none. I see a hand up. I think it was Sarah Lilly. It's not showing me exactly who it is.
Yeah. Hi, John. So for any of the other procured planners on the call, I was able to, I just did ask the state for a breakdown of the additional funding that we received, and they were able to provide it per lead applicant. That was Gerald Potts from Guidehouse who provided that information to me, but it still didn't break it down within the lead applicants, to Jessica's point. Where we might be working on multiple projects within an application. I didn't get that breakdown, but I did get the lead applicant breakdown.
Sarah, this is Danielle, and that's fantastic information. I'll reach out on that today. Did it tell you how much of it is TA dollars versus the rest of the planning funds?
Yes.
Awesome.
He broke it down by the additional funding requests from the lead applicants and the TA reallocated dollars.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Does GOA have plans to send things to the different lead applicants on what they ask those breakdowns? Because it is a little strange to be the entity responsible for putting forth a request and not receive the information on how much of that request was approved or recommended for approval.
Yeah, I
Great
second
question,
that, Jessica.
Why don't I'll get off this call and I'll email John and Julia, Jarrell, all interested parties, and tell them at a minimum, the lead applicants need to know a breakdown of these funds, and I'll delineate what we're asking. How much of this is, does the technical assistance included in the amount that the planners are getting additionally? How are they supposed to, since it was cuts, how are they supposed to target this? Is that up to the lead applicant and the procured planner to figure out, or are you dictating that they carve out certain projects and focus on them? Give us some we need direction.
We
I
do.
think
And I also, go ahead, Ralph. Sorry.
I mean, that's critical because, I mean, we're to the point, are we going to be dropping some secondary or primary components of our project, or because, I mean, we got to make sure whatever we do reaches the application and the milestones.
Yes, totally agree, Ralph.
Yeah, and do we have any alternative modes or solutions that GOA can come up with to help us out with those things? Because I think it's important as lead applicants, not just ILCAO, but all of us. When Eastgate went in a month before us with their additional TA request, they got 100% of what they asked for. So it'll be interesting to compare percentages.
I made that point to John Kerry on Wednesday. I made that point that they got 100% of their ask, and realize this isn't OVRDC only. This is Omega, OVRDC, Buckeye Hills, because Omega put in their request with ours, and I am assuming theirs was cut equally to ours. I don't, there again, I've been more focused on ours, but perhaps some planners can speak to that if they're the Omega region. I don't know.
Hey, John, another thing possibly to ask is if we go on down the road and say 3 weeks from now, we learn from the Army Corps of Engineers, we have to have such and such for permits by such and such dates, we have the ability to go back and ask for additional dollars.
From the state.
From the state or whatever other resources that might be out there. Because it could be, you know, we're having meetings with the Corps. That could be that, hey, you've got to have your applications and everything in for the Corps, say by January 1st, which means in order to meet those deadlines, we're going to have some additional dollars some way or the other.
And also, if you haven't looked at the controlling board agenda, Omega's ask was $1.25 million for, I think it's for maybe 5 county projects that's focused on the Mahoning River. But again, they got 100% of that 1.25 that they asked for.
Did you say Omega? You meant Eastgate, right?
Did I say Omega? I did indeed mean Eastgate. I'm sorry, but they do have a couple Omega counties. That's how they've grown outside of 3 counties.
Thanks, Jess, because you scared me to death because Omega was putting their stuff in the same time as us, and I was like, how did they already get approved? So, all right.
Yeah.
All right. I will send that email. I'll make it a request. I will copy all lead applicants on that. One of the other things that's come up that could help with this demise that we're under with planning resources not being allocated to the level of need that we have. We had a call last week with Chastity over at Buckeye Hills has a contract with Bricker and Graydon, sorry, new name. And they were not providing us legal advice because they couldn't, because everybody that was on that call was not a client of Bricker and Graydon. But they gave us a high level view, and this has come up before. But Bricker Graydon said under ARPA, you can do design build, you can do construction manager at risk, or you can do your old traditional design build, or not design build, sorry. Bid, design, bid, and build. So with that said, I think the state has told us we can't do design build, and that makes sense because if you look at the way they procured the planners, it doesn't fit into that narrative. So, but this construction manager at risk, this was a little meeting yet last week that described that. I'm not familiar with it, never had heard of this, but it's similar to design build. But what would happen is basically, for those that might not know this, and if I mess this up, someone that's more educated on this than me to speak up, but basically the planners or the community's lead applicants, I guess, would, once you got funded, you would go out and do an RFP to get a construction manager. You could have those contracts done prior to design on projects being done, which what that does is it buys all these planners time to not have to have things bid out by September 30th, because now you've got this construction manager on contract by September 30th. I mean, we still got to make haste. But what it does is it affords the planning firms more time to design, and they work with that construction manager to negotiate out a price for the project. And they move, then once that's all figured out, they finish the design. They work with the construction manager on the design to make sure they're employing cost saving measures or whatever to, make sure that the construction manager is good with it. And then those projects get built from that standpoint. But what it does is you've got till September 30th to get a construction manager on board. Your design could be being worked on and not even be done till, December of next year, and you're going to be okay as long as you get started on it, and you've got the number of months before October 26th to finish the job. So Jarrell is looking into that. I think several of the planners have put in or are planning to put in a formal request together, because Bricker Graydon said under ARPA you can do it, but they're needing to make sure OBM is going to be okay with this before they just go in that direction. And we need an answer quick. I think in light of this, what we just had a discussion about, there's going to have to be an answer on this quick, so we know if this is a possibility. I will say from the phone call last week, and again, I'm a novice at this. Can we get a construction manager to take on these mega projects in multiple communities, or is that was some of the discussion? They said I think Bricker Graydon said they didn't say you couldn't do it. They just said they weren't sure of any examples like this. But we'll see how that goes, but that's being considered right now. So just want you guys to know that, and that might provide the planners some relief on being sped up to get everything designed by September 30th of next year. Any comments on that? Did I butcher that? Somebody explain it better than John did if they can. I must have done well. Okay. Last two things. We received word Monday of this week. Applications are going to be due now before Christmas. The portal is probably going to open for applications next week. Now, I'd heard before it was anywhere from November 1st to the 10th that the application portal will open, but I'm hearing now, and it's not from the state, but through the grapevine, I heard it will be open next week. So I'm figuring it's November 1st. I've been told that the applications will be due before Christmas. I do not know a date. I hope it's not too soon, but I just already looked at the thing, and it's going to give us 6 or 7 weeks is my guess. If I'm guessing on when the date will be, I have no clue on that date, but we're got about 6 or 7 weeks to get applications together. Well, I think what this has come down to, what I understood on Monday, is the state's getting nervous about the September deadline, so they're wanting to get applications in, get these approved into the controlling board faster, so that things can happen on the back end to get them under contract in time. And I would just say lead applicants, lastly, are wrapping up who is in their applications. I know ILCAO, Jessica and Ralph and Michelle, they may want to say more about this, but today is their deadline for anyone that wants to, anyone they want to consider to be part of their application. If you haven't requested it of them, if you ask Monday, the answer is no, unless you guys have changed that, Ralph and Jessica and Michelle.
No, we're holding that date. I will point out that if you've already made initial contact with us and you're going through the process of finalizing that partnership, they're fine. This only applies to people who are newly approaching us.
Okay. And I don't know if any of the other lead applicants have set anything up like that. Not that it's necessary, that's just ILCAO's, that's their decision there. But just know that. But I think for the others, I don't know if they're put.
This is Devin.
Go ahead.
I can just say that we're going to be reaching out real soon just to get a verbal commitment from the communities that we've looked at, and then we'll be working on sending out that MOU very, very soon.
Devin, glad you brought up that MOU. I did mention, we had been told that in the development applications round 2, there would have to be a subrecipient agreement with all the entities that are part of the mega application. Devin brought this up when we met with him a month ago. I don't know when it was, but he said that seems a little legalistic ahead of having your grant agreement because you're entering into a contract before you have the money. I brought that up with GLA, and I was told Monday that if we have an MOU in the application and probably having the sample subrecipient agreement that everyone will sign in the application will be critical to have an MOU that spells out, here's our understanding, here's how we're partners, and we're all willing to sign this agreement with one another if funded. Some language that says that, and then attach that subrecipient agreement so they see what you're willing to commit to as partners, but you don't have to have it signed. And Julia Hinton told me that would work. So don't feel like you got to get everybody to sign a legal document during the application, but the MOU is going to be important. And we do have a sample one of those, and I think there's probably more than one flying around. If I can get my hands on several of, I got ILCAOs. Devin, I wouldn't care to see yours. And I think Great Lakes RCAP told me they're using ILCAOs, but they're going to change a few things. So anybody that doesn't have one, I can secure those and get some examples out to people. So you got different views on them. That's all I had, other than I asked for the technicals, the OVRDC Technical Assistance counties, which that's 7 of you, if you could hang around for a few minutes here afterwards. But before we do that, and those folks hang on to the line, any questions? Kevin Dennis, yes, sir.
Yeah, John, you mentioned that Benton County was now Great Lakes. I didn't catch you call it Great Lakes RCAP, or what was their name?
Yeah, Great Lakes Rural Communities Assistance Program. And they were the partner that Benton County had on board.
We had a
Kevin, can you hear me? This is Della Rucker.
Uh-huh.
Kevin, this is Della. I just wanted to, so Terry might be trying to answer this too, but we have an agreement with Great Lakes CAP. So you're fine. We're collaborating on that. Okay. You're covered.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Does that make any sense?
Don't panic. I was trying to get my mic turned on too. You're good.
It's just who's taking the lead, Kevin. It's
Right.
Benton
It
County
is.
was going to be the lead in conjunction with Great Lakes RCAP. They're just flipping roles. So Benton County's still involved. All right. I don't see any other questions. I don't want to take everybody's time up. And I've got an 11, so I'll have to be quick with the TA folks, but raise your hand if this program's worn you out. I see there was 5 people raised their hand, and then some physically did it. So I understand, guys. It is what it is. So I can't. I'm just the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger here. So, well, appreciate you guys. Enjoy your Friday. I hope you have a great weekend. And I will. I keep the TA grant people. OVRDC TA grant people on here. I would appreciate it. The rest of you have a good weekend.